Hi, guys. Well, I am not going live this Saturday. Today, I guess it would be. So I'm kind of moving along in time. Um, I'm not going live this week because I have a teaching commitment. So I'm teaching for the Heart of Ohio Toll Painters chapter, and I'm really excited about that. I get to spend 3 days with those wonderful ladies, which is just so much fun. And but I didn't want to leave you guys in the lurch. I wanted you guys to have something really fun to do for the weekend, and not something overly taxing, but something that was going to engage you and keep you happy. And as long as you've got brushes in your hands, how can you be unhappy? So I thought it would be fun, and I do this every year to choose today to do our RAK, or our Random Acts of Kindness project. And I have spent the last couple of weeks playing with some ideas for it, and I came up with this fun little star, Christmas star, and it's a little gingerbread cookie. Not your typical gingerbread man, but a gingerbread cookie shaped like a star. I got the inspiration actually from a baking video that I saw. The woman was decorating cookies in just the sweetest little things. So that's what inspired this. And then I thought, well, what kind of surface can we use? So I thought, well, one, it has to be affordable because we're going to be doing lots of them. So it also has to be readily available. So I located a bunch of surfaces from a local dollar store, and I also sourced some through a variety of locations. You can find them almost anywhere. It's just a simple 3-inch star, nothing major. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. It can be any type of star. I just happened to find these ones. These I located at our local dollar store, the Great Canadian Dollar Store. These are a multi-craft product. There was 12 of them, and I think they were $2, something in that neighborhood. Very inexpensive. Lots and lots of surfaces, and they're actually pretty good quality. I was rather impressed with that. So the surface, affordable, easy to find, easy to locate, easily substituted if you can't find exactly that thing. You can use almost anything. The other surface that I used was this, just a simple little wooden heart. And this, again, is about 3 inches in size, not overly large. Also very affordable. I located these through stockade.ca, which is a craft and wood company here in Canada. I also was able to find something similar at michaels.ca and michaels.com, and on Hobby Lobby also had little wooden hearts in about roughly 3 inches in size. And those worked perfectly for these little gingerbread cookies. And I'm obsessed with cookies lately. I have no idea why, but I'm having entirely too much fun creating with just with that theme in mind. So this is what I came up with, was these fun little stars. I did the little cookie, but then I played around and came up with the little snowman. I thought he was really cute. I had a big old bag full of, these are just little chipboard or MDF embellishments. These ones were from Southern Ridge Trading at chipboard.ca. Great little company. I've been dealing with them quite a bit. She has and makes some of the most beautiful scrapbooking, paper crafting, and mixed media embellishments I have ever seen. She's incredibly creative. And that's where I located these. I had a bag of about a couple of hundred of them, and I thought I should put some of them to use. So that's what I used. But honestly, I've already seen a couple of people painting these, and then they've been using little candy embellishments that they found at dollar stores and Hobby Lobby and various scrapbook supply stores. So you can use almost anything. Any little festive embellishment will work perfectly. It doesn't have to be this holly leaf and holly berry. So this is what we're going to work on. I'll show you how to paint these step by step. They're super simple. They are really a lot of fun to do, so I think you'll enjoy them. Now, if you are not familiar with the Random Acts of Kindness, it's pretty simple. It's just paint, create, design something fun, something easy, and create a pin or an ornament, or sometimes it could just be a little token, something that they can put in their pocket or keep with them or set on their desk. It doesn't have to be much. and just surprise someone, a total stranger, the girl at the bank, the guy at the checkout counter, the fellow at the gas station or the local 7-Eleven, or wherever you happen to be. If you meet someone who seems like they could use a little bit of Christmas spirit or just a little pick me up, they're the perfect person to give them to. The story behind my doing this actually started in a Michael's store in the city of St. John. We had gone down for the weekend. It was just a little bit of holiday shopping in that area, and went into a local Michael's store, which, I mean, what crafter doesn't want to go to Michael's? So in I go. As I'm going through the checkout line, there's a woman in front of me, lovely woman. I didn't really notice if she was sad or what have you, but the line was long. It was a long wait, and she turned and she happened to glance over at my shoulder, and I was wearing a little snowman pin that I had made. And I had probably made, I don't know, 10 or 15 of them to give to friends and family. And she commented that it was adorable, and which craft show or sale did I find it? She would love to get one. And I thought, I have a whole bunch of them at home. Why not just give her this one? So I did. I reached up and I said, well, I make them. And I don't sell them. So I took it off and I gave it to her. And she burst into tears. And she said that she'd had apologized for the tears, but then had told me that she'd had such a miserable few weeks and a miserable few months that that little act of kindness just seemed to be overwhelming to her. And I thought that if it moved somebody that much, then imagine what you could do if you did that 10 times or 100 times or 1,000 times. And so I started making these little pins and just gifting them away. I gave them to people at the deli counter. I gave them to the girl at the bank teller. Anybody that seemed to need a little pick-me-up. And it kind of took hold. One, I absolutely loved the reactions, and I can tell you I've had some really unusual reactions. I've had people hug the stuffing out of me. I've had people say, no, thank you. And I've had people just be overwhelmed by the fact that someone did something kind for them. And to me, this is just a small thing, but it makes a very big difference to an individual. And if you can make a difference like that to just one person, it's like a ripple effect. They'll go out and try to have that impact on at least one person. So that is the reason behind these, is that you can change an awful lot with one simple little thing. And I think an act of kindness is, to me, the best way to change the world. So in my little world, we're going to paint some pins. So if you're ready to get started, so am I. So I have oodles of these little guys. I've probably painted, I kind of got carried away this week. I started out with 12 little stars. I ended up with 36, and now I'm going shopping for more stars. So I have 36 stars of the little cookies, and then I did 36 of these. So I think I'm at 72 pins so far. But I average anywhere between, a couple of hundred to 500 every year. The cute thing is I was in a grocery store not too long ago, just at the start of the whole festive season, and this young lady, she's half my age, so she's, a young lady, was wearing one of the pins that I had made a few years ago. And I commented that it was a cute pin. And she says, yes, some nutty lady gave it to me. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm a nutty lady. So, and that is not a bad thing. So the surface that I'm working with is this. These ones are just simple. I'm going to think they're just birch or balsa wood. They're just a simple star cutout, nothing elaborate, nothing expensive. And I like this type of thing because they're easily found. most craft supply places like Michael's and whatnot will have something very similar. Now, they can be a little smaller, they can be a little bigger. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't even have to be this type of star shape. It could be any star shape. But this is the one that I have located, and I have already got my base coat on. These are fun to paint, and with a few little tools, you can have a lot of fun with them. So, I have started with my base coat, and in this case, it is raw sienna. I've got 2 coats of raw sienna on here. Doesn't really have to be fully opaque, because you're going to put a few layers on. This one's a little rough, though. I'm going to give it a little sanding. Just because it was a little rough. There we go. And I'm going to just brush a little bit of water over top, take the dust off. There we go. So you can paint a dozen of these fairly quickly. Now, base coating these, if you're base coating one, then a brush will work just fine. But if you've got a dozen or so of them, put a little masking tape on the back of them, tape them onto a piece of cardboard, and then use a paint roller or a sponge to put your base coats on. Works much faster. There we go. Oh, this one's already got glitter on it. I haven't even put glitter on it yet, but it's got glitter on it. So this is our piece. I'm going to put a little bit of raw sienna on my palette. Now, the color palette for these little guys is really simple. We're working with a little bit of warm white, a little bit of country red, plantation pine. I've got, oops, I forgot my antique green, or lush green, antique green or lush green. Forgot to put some of that on the palette. And then we have a little bit of sprout and some asphaltum. Sprout, sorry, you can't see that. There it is, sprout. Asphaltum, almandine, which is this new color from Deckwort, the raw sienna, and this is the crystal blue or Bahama blue, either one. So I'm going to put out a little bit of antique green, and there is our color palette. Fairly short. I didn't want to have 5 million colors in this thing. So here we go. That's our color palette. Really simple and very straightforward. So I'm going to grab a 1/2 inch angle and a 1/2 inch angle brush here. Try to make sure I stay in the shot. I have a tendency to either go too high or too low. So I'm double loading my brush. I've got a little bit of raw sienna on the heel of the brush and a little bit of asphaltum on the toe. And this is just to make our shading a little easier. So we're going to go all the way around the outside edge of our cookie. Super simple. Neatness doesn't count. Perfection is to be avoided at all costs. This is just an easy way to get that nice little transition using a double load. It doesn't have to be perfect on the edges of these cookies. It's just to create a little golden baked look, I guess. And then we're going to put icing on this one. So instead of putzing and trying to get those shadows absolutely perfect, this is what I do. So I'm just going to put a shadow, nice wide one, right across the top of my cookie, like that. Neatness doesn't count. So that when I draw on my icing, let me dry this so you can see it. I put that in the wrong spot. Oh my gosh. Hello. I didn't go far enough. There we go. Good gravy, Marie. You ever have one of those days? Couldn't paint my way out of a paper bag today. I managed to completely mess that up. I'm just going to scrub that out. There we go. Okay. Good grief. Some days. Okay. Good Lord. I, I don't know what it is, but some days I just, you know, not thinking. And I got a little spot I got to fix, but that's okay. These aren't intended to be absolutely perfect. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you. Could mess up the Lord's Prayer today. Okay, let's try to fix this now. Good gravy. There we go. Okay, it'll do. Probably going to be hidden behind icing anyway. So, I'm going to dry this real quick. And we're going to put a highlight on in the center of our cookie. And let's see if I can do that without messing it up. Okay, so I'm using, this is a Dynasty Mezzaluna, a size large. And I've picked up a little bit of that almondine. And your brush should be just about dry. And I'm going to start in the center of my cookie. And I'm going to work out it like a star from the center of the cookie. I just want to put a highlight in the middle of the cookie. So that it gives the illusion that the center of the cookie is higher than the outside edge. There we go. So there is our highlight. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just enough to give it the illusion that it's dry and a little higher in the middle than it is on the outside edge. That's all. And our cookie is going to have eyes. He has to have eyes. And now you can trace them from the pattern. But I want to show you a little trick that I like using because it's just a huge time saver. So I have, this is one of my shape makers. It's just a series. It's a stencil of a series of different sized dots. And I'm going to choose this one. It's a little bigger than 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to put it right about there. And, oh, we're going to need a little bit of lamp black. And I need a small stencil brush. So I'm going to use a little bit of lamp black on a stencil brush. And that should take care of my eyeball. That's one eyeball. And then I'm going to place that same stencil. I'm going to dry that real quick, just so it doesn't make a mess. I'm going to place that same stencil about 1/2 inch apart. And I'm going to do it again. Circular fashion, change directions frequently. And then remove the stencil. We have eyeballs. I like using a stencil because then they're consistent, and then you don't end up with those egg-shaped eyeballs that happen so often when you try to paint a perfect circle. So there we have eyeballs. And I'm going to use that same Mezzaluna brush with a little bit of country red. And again, the brush should be almost dry. And right below that eye, we're going to put in a nice little rosy cheek. Just like that. Nothing fancy. Just a little rosy cheek. Comme ça. So we have a rosy cheek. These little guys are so much fun to paint. They're so simple. So we need some icing. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to draw in some icing. Nothing major. So I'm just doing that line across there, and then we're going to base coat that in using a little bit of warm white. I think that's warm white. Yep. Good heavens. So by doing all of that shadow first, all of that shading first, it saves us a little bit of aggravation, because now you don't have to worry about getting all of that dark paint on top of your white paint. Super simple. So, a little bit of white paint. This is just warm white. First coat, it is not going to cover perfectly the first time. White never seems to. But you want to also finish your edges nicely. So just take your white and make sure the top edge of your icing is done. Just like so. A little bit of white on the edges. Now, you can do this with a sponge too. But this just gives that cookie a nice little finished touch. So I'm going to dry that real quick. Of course, I got white paint everywhere now. Now, this same design could be done on a round cookie, round shape, circular shape. Could be done on a little square. Just turn it on its end. You could do almost anything. Any shape will work for this type of thing. You're just creating a simple little cookie with a face. Cute face, but a face nonetheless. There we go. So I'm going to put a second coat on, and I think that should just about do it. It should be just about, yeah, I think that'll be enough. And then we're going to start adding some fun little details to our little guy here. Commented to a friend the other day that those cute little things seem to take up a lot more time than you expect. And I think a lot of it is that we spent so much time worrying about all of the minutiae, the tiny little details that's in them, when sometimes the simplest thing is the best option. And in this case, these guys are really simple. There is nothing elaborate about them. So here is our cookie. I'm going to dry that. Now we're going to use a double loaded technique again. This time around we're going to use it on the icing to create a little bit of a shadow on there, give them a little bit of height. And I'm using a 3/8 angle. Get this nice and wet. And I'm going to double load again. This time around I'm using the warm white. Of course, I put it on the wrong side of the brush. Hello. So a little bit of warm white on the heel of the brush. And then I'm going with a little bit of that crystal blue or Bahama blue on the toe of the brush. And we're going to blend those two things together. And this is our shading color. So as you're looking at your cookie, the shadow is going to go on the right side, this side here. So I'm going to come in from the edge just a little bit. Just a little bit. I just want a little sliver of space in there. And I'm following the shape of that drop of icing so that it's got that little bit of a curve in it. And all it does is imply that this is drippy. And then on that right side of the cookie, we're going to put another shadow, just like so. So there is your shading on your icing. Now the shading under the icing is already done because we did that in the first step. So I'm going to dry this little guy real quick, and then we'll put a highlight on. Now you can do it with a little bit of warm white. It's just to diffuse some of the edges of this shading, or you can use titanium white if you like. I'm going to use a little bit of warm white. So warm white on my brush, blend it well. Doesn't need to be full strength. And then you're just going to float on the opposite side. Now when you do this, that little float sort of diffuses the back end of the shading that you've done and just softens it a little bit. And that's all it really needs to do. So I'm going to take that same warm white. I'm going to add a highlight to his eyeballs. And again, I'm coming in from the edge of the cookie, or the edge of the eye, just a little. Now, if you're not comfortable with the 3/8, you can go to a smaller one if you like. I think this one's a little, not enough water in my brush. That float's gotten way too bright. So let's try it again. There we go. Just needed a little more water. So again, I've come in from the edge just slightly. On the cookie. There we go. So we've got a nice little highlight on the left side of the eye. And then we're going to put a shadow on the cookie, but on the right side of the eye. So the shadow doesn't go on the eye, it goes next to the eye. And this is just a little shadow of asphaltum. And that little shadow has a big impact. If I can fix it. I can't seem to float today. Here we go. There we go. So on the cookie on the right side of the eye, it's just going to give the eye a little elevation, like it's a cast shadow. So dry that. And this is one of my favorite tools for little details in this case. Because I'm going to be brushing a varnish over top, I don't want to move it, so I've opted not to use a gel pen. I've decided to use this Adenta pen. We're going to put a mouth on, and it's just a little smile, like so. Super easy, nothing major. And then we have to start adding a few little details to this face. Very few. I'm going to use a small rigger. You can use a liner or a stylus, whichever works for you. So I'm picking up a little bit of warm white, and on the upper left of the eye, right on that highlight, I'm just going to put a dot. So now we have eyeballs and we have a smile. So the only thing our cookie needs to do is to sit over here to dry for the time being, and we're going to do a little bit of work on this holly. These, as I said, are just little cutouts. They're a scrapbooking embellishment that are available from Southern Ridge Trading. These are just fun. They're a little persnickety because they're so small, but they're actually very easy to paint. So I have a base coat of antique green on this little thing, and I'm going to use a shading color of plantation pine, and I'm only using it at the very base of the leaf. So a little float right at the base of the leaf. Just like so. Right at the very base. I'll dry that so that you can see it. So that little shading at the bottom is just going to give these leaves a little curve. And then we're going to highlight the tip of the petals with a little bit of that sprout green. And it's just a little. I don't want to overdo it. There's no need. I just want to create a little light at the end of the leaf so that we have this simple little embellishment. Now, the berries are even simpler. I'm going to use the end of my brush, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of that country red or Santa red or bright red or true red or cherry red, whatever red you want to work with or that you have. I like country red. It's my go-to. So I just put 3 little dots on my holly, and I'm going to dry this real quick, and we're going to add just a small highlight to that holly. There we go. Now I'm using a liner, a rigger, stylus, whatever you have on hand, and I'm going to add just a little dot of white to the upper left of each berry. So there is our holly leaves. Now, construction. Construction of these little guys is super simple. This is what I'm using. These are adhesive bar pins. These ones I found at, I believe it was Hobby Lobby. But you can get them almost anywhere. You can find them at Michael's. You can find them at most dollar stores have them. They're very easy to locate. This is our pin back. Now, we need to do a little bit of work on our little fellow here. One of the things that I like to do is I like to finish the back of my pin. And I really don't like it when I get paint all over the back, but it's easily remedied. I'll just sand that a little bit. And I've got a little bit of honey brown on my palette. I'm thinking I'm going to go to the back of mine. I've got 3/4 flat. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that raw sienna on the back just to clean it up. I like a nice, they should be nicely finished on the back. So you could stain the backs if you want to. You can paint them black if you want to. I've seen people put chalkboard paint on the back so they could write little notes on. Now the fun part about working with a pin this size is that it easily converts to an ornament. So if you want, you can actually drill a little hole at the top or wherever, put a bow on it, or run a string through it so that people can convert it to an ornament if they don't want to wear the pin. So that's what I like. I like my backs nicely finished. I also like my edges nicely finished. In this case, I went around and I painted them the same base color as the rest of the cookie. So now it's time to break out our Aleene's tacky glue and my favorite holiday varnish. Now, it ain't Christmas if there's no glitter. So I have this one of my favorites. This is Starlight Glittering Varnish. It has a very subtle glitter in it. It's not over the top, but it gives a nice little sparkle, and it seals and protects, gives you like a nice low sheen. So it's ideal for this type of thing. And it actually has a very subtle and quite pretty glitter to it. The other option, if you really like lots of glitter, especially on the snow, is this one. This is Galaxy Glitter from Decor. This is Clear Ice Comet. These ones are a little over the top. And if you like glitter, then go for it. I would put it mostly on the snow, I think, personally. But you can put it wherever. It's just that this one is heavily loaded, has tons of glitter. And then there's this one. This is also a favorite of mine. This one is Duraclear's Galaxy Varnish. This one is a little more glitter in it than the Starlight. It has this wonderful little star flake in it that is just so pretty on Christmas pieces. Again, this one's going to have a little more glitter in it than the Starlight, but if you like the glitter, then go for it. So I'm going to use my fave, which is just this Starlight glitter. I love this stuff. And my bottle is almost empty. But Starlight glitter varnish is just the best. It gives you a nice finish. It brushes on really nicely, really easily. You don't have to putz with it too much. And it just adds a little bit of sparkle, which in this case is exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to brush on a little bit of sparkle. And it is a varnish, so it seals and protects the piece, which is nice. And it dries very quickly. I'm also going to do the same thing to my holly leaves. Put a little coat of that glitter varnish on, just so that we have sparkle everywhere. Oops. And the other thing that I really like about this Starlight is how fast it dries. I love the sheen, and I love that little subtle sparkle, which is really pretty. It's not over the top. Of course, each consecutive coat you put on is going to give you a little bit more sparkle. So if you like a lot more sparkle, go for it. Super easy. So that's almost dry. So I'm going to do one of my favorite things. I'm going to use, this is just Aleene's Tacky Glue, which is, I love this stuff. It's the best craft glue. So a little bit of Aleene's on the back of our embellishment. And I like to place my holly leaves off to the side. I don't want them to be everywhere, so. And it's okay if it goes off the pin a little bit, that's fine. So there we go. Now, we need a little bit of snow because it's Christmas. So I've got my favorite fugly brush and a little bit of thinned warm white, just a little, and a little bit of spatter because it's winter. You need that little bit of snow. Still pretty. So I'm going to dry that real quick, and then we're going to put one more coat of that Starlight on. I love that Starlight varnish. Just to seal everything in nice and tight. And it's just a light coat, nothing major. And I like to seal off that holly as well. Make sure that the holly gets a coat. Brush it out nice and even. Now, it's as easy to paint a dozen of these as it is to paint one. So you can bang out a dozen of these fairly quickly. So that is just about dry. And I'm going to, oh, so cute. Now, these ones here, these pin backs, these bar pins, are self-adhesive, so you have to peel off that little bit of tape. And I put it about 2/3 of the way up the pin and then just press it into place. A little firm pressure. Make sure your paint is well dry. A little bit of firm pressure. If you can't find the self-adhesive ones, just the regular bar pins and a little bit of Aleene's Tacky Glue or hot glue gun will put that into place quite nicely. And your little pin is finished. Now I have a favorite finishing touch for these. As you can see, I've got these little tags, little paper tags that they clip onto. I use a hole punch and space them approximately an inch to 1.5 inches apart so that the pin can go through those holes. Now the card, there is a template for the card in the pattern for these little stars, the hearts, and the little snowman. And it's simply this: you've received this small gift for no other reason than being who you are. You are deserving of a little kindness. The only thing required of you is to perform a random act of kindness yourself. It can be anything from paying for someone's coffee, holding a door with a smile, or giving them a small gift. Whatever your choice, kindness has a way of traveling. Merry Christmas. So I just take these, I print them out on cardstock, and then I open up my pin and I just pop through the holes. And close your pin onto it, and they're ready to give away. Super simple, a lot of fun to do. You can sit down and do these with the grandkids. You can do them with the neighbor's kids or your own kids. They don't have to be elaborate. They don't have to be super expensive, but they can make a huge difference to someone. And it's always surprising what people will tell you about their life when you do something like this. Whenever you're giving some of these away, you're going to find that people are going to react very differently. Some people will say, no, thank you. Other people will say, well, why? Why are you giving this to me? And you can just tell them that because they look like they could use a little Christmas spirit. That's all. So that is it. That's how you work on these little RAKs. So I hope you get something out of this. And I hope that it's something really positive. The idea of doing these RAKs, these random acts of kindness, was just a spur of the moment thing that I started a number of years ago. And then someone asked me if there was a pattern for it. So I said, oh, I could do that. So I put together a simple little pattern, made it as a PDF so people could download it. And in the first day, over 500 people downloaded the pattern. And then I started noticing on social media that people were painting them and giving them away. And it was just a wonderful thing. And so I've continued to do this every single year. So if you are not part of the Random Act of Kindness all year long Facebook group, please come and join us. It is no cost. It is something that you can do in your free time, in your spare time. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It can be as simple as being courteous, smiling, and holding a door for someone. It doesn't have to be anything amazing. It is amazing all by itself, just the reaction that people have. Somebody's having a really lousy day. When someone does something kind for them, it changes their attitude, changes their heart, changes their mind. And they in turn will do something kind for someone else. That little action can make a huge difference to someone who really needs it. So grab yourself a bunch of inexpensive little stars, a bunch of little surfaces, or dig through your stash. You never know what you're going to find in there. And put together 5, 2, 1, 100, 1,000 of these fun little pins and just give them away. You may not see the difference it makes, but believe me, it makes a difference. So I hope that you enjoy doing these. I hope that I see you next Saturday, because we are going live. We're doing a floral. You're going to love it. So we are doing a live next Saturday, so join us. Then we'll see you on the Tracy Moreau Live Facebook page and on my YouTube channel. If you are not subscribed to either one, please do so. Hit the subscribe button, that big red subscribe button on my YouTube channel, and you'll be notified whenever we put up free video and when we go live, which is every Saturday, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I'm Tracy Moreau. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. Love you and stay safe.